Hello, Dr. Vikki Petersen here. I want to talk to you about calcium and weight loss and some other things. So calcium is a very abundant mineral in our body, and you might think about building strong teeth and strong bones, and you'd be very right about that. But it's also in our blood, and it's important for muscle contraction, it's important for nerve transmission, it's important for hormones. It does a tremendous amount. And it also has an anti-obesity effect, which I didn't know. So the more calcium that you have in your fat cells, you will burn fat, you will burn calories better, which is pretty fascinating. So then the question is, all right, so I want to make sure I have enough calcium. Where do I get it? And you know, growing up, what did we hear? Drink your milk, get strong bones. But that's a fallacy. So what's been proven is that while animal product from, the milk and the calcium in dairy products is present, certainly. There's a lot of calcium from dairy products, but is it absorbable? That's the key. So it turns out that only 25% of it is absorbable for we humans, and this has been well known when you look at the countries that consume the most dairy products, the industrialized nations that consume the highest amount of dairy products have the highest amount of osteoporosis, which is brittle, weak bones. So certainly there's some disconnect between a lot of milk and strong bones. It's exactly the opposite, which is why the dairy industry is not allowed to say that dairy builds strong bones, because it actually does the exact opposite. So what we have is only 25% being absorbed and 75% kind of roaming around your body, going in places that it shouldn't. So that's not a good idea. The best sources of calcium are actually plant foods. Things like green leafy vegetables, almonds, broccoli, tofu. What am I forgetting? Navy beans is another one that's super high. I mean, it's found in a lot of things. I'm just giving you some that are of the highest. So what's really the difference? There's a few things. So dairy from cows is rich in the protein casein. Human milk is rich in the protein whey. And there's a big distinction between those two in many regards. So as humans, our milk of all mammals is the lowest in protein. So what's natural for us is not the super high protein that's found in dairy, and it's also not the type of protein that's found in dairy, which is called casein. Casein really drives what's called IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor, and it's a growth factor, and that's why you turn, what does a calf weigh when it's born? I have it here somewhere, a 65-pound calf into a 400-pound cow in just a year. We're not interested in that kind of a weight gain. I think you'd agree. So there is a distinction in the quality of these proteins. So as humans, mostly whey, not so much casein. The ratio is very different. Casein drives that IGF-1. Also, casein is a bigger molecule, and it can create problems in actually loss of blood. This is why if you've had a child, you're warned by your pediatrician, absolutely no cow's milk under the age of 1, because iron deficiency anemia is associated with giving human babies cow's milk, because this high casein is hard on their kidneys, hard on the gut, and can create these little micro tears and bleeding, and therefore anemia. In fact, it's not just in children. Vegetarians that consume the highest amount of dairy products tend to also have a very high amount of iron deficiency anemia, and it has to do with the size, again, of the casein molecule. Sorry, I'm looking down at my notes and make sure I'm not forgetting anything. So what else do I want to tell you? Oh, so the last thing I want to finish with, and I hear this so often, and I was a card-carrying member of this comment, which is like, I love my cheese. I wasn't so much of a milk addict. Oh, well, ice cream. Yeah, loved the ice cream, loved the cheese. And so I wasn't too happy having to give up dairy. And there's one thing, you know, learning it's not good for you and all of that, but then there's another thing if you have that sort of visceral response of like, oh, I can't do that. And that kind of response is because you're addicted. And I've known and spoken a long time about the addiction of sugar, the addiction of dairy from caseomorphines, the addiction of gluten from gluteomorphines, because you get this morphine type response, which is a high. You actually get high from eating these foods, and that's why comfort foods, what do comfort foods pretty much always have in them? Dairy and or sugar and or gluten, because these foods have these opiate type responses and a high addictive type response. So these caseomorphines, though, even though I've spoken about it for so long, the new research that I learned, which is so interesting, is that Mother Nature had a reason for making caseomorphines, and that is that, I mean, think about it, as humans, you know, we're carrying around our babies all day long, and there's, you know, one baby in one house, and you know, maybe you have twins, but you know, it's not hard for you to find your baby. But now think about a mommy cow out in the field, and there's other baby cows, and so Mother Nature made the caseomorphine addictive so that her baby would be addicted to her milk and would keep coming back, so it would get fed and survive. So that addictive quality had a survival aspect. But again, we're not cows, so we don't need that addictive type response, especially with all the negatives that are associated with the dairy products. So we do need calcium, but we need good absorbable calcium, and we don't need iron deficiency anemia, and we don't need all the xenoestrogens that come from milk because of how they're fed, and the fact that the poor cow, while it's being milked, it's lactating, obviously, and it's often pregnant at the same time when there's a lot of estrogens flowing through their body, and these are just not natural conditions in the old days, and certainly I'm sure in some nicely treated cows, when they're pregnant, they're not being milked, they're just happily being pregnant, and then when they have their calf gets to actually eat from them, which is the design, but that's not what happens in the general milk production in our country, and so these negatives are very real. So I hope that helped as far as giving you the importance of getting enough calcium, but getting it from the right source. And if you're having trouble losing weight, if you are not feeling the way you want, your health status is not the way you want it to be, please reach out. We're very good at getting to the root cause of why. So give us a call here at the clinic, and the number is 408-733-0400. I'll talk to you soon.